So sometimes I find myself in a debate with a liberal who thinks that the Democratic Party needs to actually move to the center to get votes, without realizing the Democratic Party has been in the center for the past 8 years and has continued to lose seats and lost the 2016 election against Donald Trump. But it turns out it's not just bad strategy, it's also a way to make money for Republicans who pretend to be Democrats. So this is Mark Penn, a former Clinton strategist who might actually be a Republican. And The Intercept has a new article up that shows how Mark Penn has actually profited from GOP victories. Democrats would do best if they abandoned broad economic reforms and a more leftward political program, argued Mark Penn, a strategist known for best advising Bill and Hillary Clinton, in the pages of the New York Times opinion section. Penn wrote the Democratic Party must move to the center and reject the siren calls of the left. But there's another wrinkle to Penn's advice. He now invests in Republican advocacy firms and profits from the electoral defeat of Democrats. In March, Penn's investment firm Stagwell Media LLC announced that it had acquired a minority stake in Targeted Victory, a major Republican digital consulting company. More recently, following Penn's investment in the firm, Targeted Victory assisted Republican Karen Handel in her successful campaign against Democrat Jon Ossoff in the Georgia special election last month. So this is the reality with these corporate Democrats. These actual corporate Democrats. These people who call themselves Democrats, but they run companies where they invest in firms that help Republicans win elections against Democrats. So he's not just profiting off of these losses. He's the kind of guy who's invested in both sides. Penn also owns SKD Knickerbocker, a Democrat-run company that develops policy campaigns on behalf of corporate clients, including for-profit colleges, AT&T, and Herbalife. So not only is he actively involved in making sure that Democrats lose elections, he's also involved in making the Democratic Party more corporate. So while people often put all the blame on the politicians for being too corporate and listening to their big donors as opposed to listening to their actual voters, it turns out it's not just the politicians who are corrupted. It's also people that work the system. People like Mark Penn, who profit off of doing this type of work. And because of that, has a vested interest in keeping things the way they are. Now look, the strategy angle of this is obvious. Democrats have tried to go after the center for years, and they keep losing elections. So a normal thinking human being could say, okay, maybe it's time for a new strategy. Maybe it's time to go after the base. Get voters that actually want real progressive policy and real change in the country, and not just keep capitulating to the right and trying to find voters in the center that don't exist, or trying to bring right-wing voters over that never actually come over. Let's actually go after our base and the real voters. But they don't do that. And it's not just because they're dumb. In fact, they're not dumb. They're doing it on purpose. They profit from it. And it's one thing for this guy to exist and give his shitty advice to whatever candidate that he works with, but it's another thing to have this guy write for the New York Times. This is somebody who is actively benefiting off of the loss of Democrats, yet he gets to write an opinion column discussing why the Democrats need to be more corporate and move to the center, when he won't tell you the reason he's saying this is because he profits when they do. So while most of you don't need convincing that the Democratic Party needs to move left to actually win, this is more evidence that moving to the center is not only bad strategy, it's also a profit motive for right-wingers who pretend to be Democrats.